Unfortunately, I'm gonna be the hater on this card. I honestly, I do hate cards like these.
80% of the people were playing the same freaking deck.
Welcome to WWB Worldwide Broadcast. This is episode 33, and we have a special guest with us today. Not only Billy Hughes, because he's as special as always, but Ernesto, the founder of Guardian Gamers, is here with us, guys. He's kind of a new member to the Ward Discord, and so he had some fun topics that he came to talk to me about, and we thought we'd cover it on this episode. And so, yeah. Hi, Ernesto.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
I have to start out, Ernesto. What got you into Ward? That's always my favorite question to ask everybody.
So if you want to real story, if you want the legit story about how I heard about Ward, I just seriously got a absolute ton of ads about Ward from YouTube, and eventually it just got to a point where I was like, you know what? Let me just try this game out. And then I was hooked. That's just
it's
the
awesome.
It crumbles.
It's awesome to know that the ads are working. So now for when all the Ward staff watch this, they'll know. They're like, oh, those ads are actually working. We're getting people to just click and look from that aren't in the community. So we love to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the first ad story we've had of somebody just coming in with the ads. But overall, what's maybe your favorite aspect of Ward? If we could also just kind of talk about that real quick.
To be honest, it's the this is gonna sound like a negative, but I like how slow the game is. Because right now with the big three, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, they're all just turn one, you're trying to win by turn three. Especially Yu-Gi-Oh. And honestly, I don't enjoy myself. My closest LGS is 30 minutes away, so I really don't want to have a 30-minute drive just to lose a game turn two. It's really anticlimactic, and honestly, it's just I don't really appreciate it. It's not fun. So that's why I've been looking for an alternative. I didn't enjoy Flesh and Blood, so they didn't really grasp me. But then once I got a kind of whiff of Ward, eventually I got curious. I started looking up videos like Ward tutorials, etc., and then finally I joined the server, bit the bullet, and played my first game on Untap, and then I was hooked.
No, I like your story, Ernesto, because I actually have a very similar story when it came to me getting into Magic. And the sad thing is, the only thing that I've really played, I played a little bit of Standard in Magic, but there was a group of buddies in my area, and they used to be like, hey, come down and play Commander. And I was like, oh, and the way they pitch it is Commander's supposed to be the slower, poor man's kind of Magic, right? Where it's just oh, usually
that's a lie.
No,
that's a lie.
You're about to get to where I'm coming with. So then of course I was like, sure, I'll show up to this Commander little get together that they're doing, and like you said, it was we sat down. I have this pre-con deck that I just bought that was one of the new.
You get Thoracle turn 4.
Yeah, but like I said, yeah, it's one of the new decks that they had for the pre-cons, and I was like, okay, let me try this thing out, So I'm over here all ready to get my guys. Like you said, we go around 3 times. A couple people are taking, probably 10 minutes to do their turn, and then before you know it, somebody's just like, all right, I'm gonna play this card. Can anyone stop this? It's nope. All right, I'm just gonna do 400 combos, and it's now the game's over. It's just and that, like you said, that was literally my experience every time we went. It was almost every deck was just once they found their piece, it was all right, now if you can't stop this, the game's just over. It's just yeah, I honestly, I'm not a big fan of kind of like you were saying too with Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just everything ends in 2 turns, and it's just what was the back and forth?
Honestly, people have been acting like Genesis is the answer to everything, but honestly, it's not. Because advanced format it's just advanced format, except with this time you can play banless cards to a certain extent. It's not the answer to anything. If
Yeah,
anything, it's just more of a problem.
it sounds like that they don't have a very good fix to like what exactly they want to do. But either way, like as you were saying with Ward, I mean that's where I appreciate Ward too. I mean you brought it up. It's just like the fact that with Ward there isn't really this like you can just win in 2 turns. Like I don't even think there's really like an OTK that has existed, and like I
No,
don't really think that that's
no,
like the kind of direction they want the game to go.
you can't.
And
You
so
can't. No.
like you said,
No.
it's like they want more of that like kaiju like back and forth like I punch, you punch, I punch, and it's like I think at the end of the day, as much as people might not like that the consistency isn't in the game, it's like hey, that's what makes games fun. And I mean Billy, I'll let you piggyback. Like how is that kind of your thoughts, or do you have like a different take with that for Ward specifically?
No, I love the back and forth. It feels like I'm actually sitting down and playing a card game with somebody else. You don't play hearts and then you lose on the first round. You know what I mean? Like that's not fun. You're sitting down, you're playing with people. And like Magic is just a race to who can get their combo to go infinite, and then they win. It's like we had one infinite. Well, that's not true. We had 2 or 3 infinite combos in Ward, and guess what happened? No, we're not doing that. That's not fun. That's not
Yep.
interactive. That is anti what we want it to be, and I appreciate that a lot.
Exactly.
Because it's not fun. Yeah, it's not fun. It's
Mm.
like okay, it's just a race to get the infinite combo, and I'd
Yeah.
rather have like you have to win it with a back and forth and like tie turns, and like it ebbs and flows because it's a fluid game. I like that a lot better.
But yeah,
I completely agree.
I was gonna say Ernesto. Yeah, I think we all kind of are on the same page with you. Kind of why the reason I think we prefer Ward over some of these other card games, at least at the moment. Like you said, maybe they'll fix them, but at this time, honestly, like Ward kind of has that quality to it, where it's just like, hey, I actually get to play my cards. I actually get to have these different experiences. It's not just let me find my win con and then let me win the game.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. For example, I know we're supposed to get to this topic later. However, I did take Ward. I made it when I got my when I got my product. I went ahead and I made 2 demo decks that are roughly the same kind of power, and I took them down to my LGS. And even while it's so funny you say that, even while I was demoing the game, there was a commander game going behind me, and somebody comboed off turn 3. And even the owner was like, you guys already got done with your first game?" And they were like, "Yeah, somebody comboed off with Oracle," or "Oh, somebody comboed off with this or with that." And it's like, dude, I like, why do you guys play that? It sucks.
Well, like you said, it just definitely I think takes the wind out of everyone's sail when it's like you said, it's like we make this an event. We come here, put a couple hours into play every day or whatever, or not every day, but whenever you get a chance. And like you said, to have that kind of like experience, kind of just be like, oh yeah, who's gonna hit that card, and then let's just call it a game, and then let's move on. It's like I think we've all felt that from a card game. I mean, with that, like you said, I mean maybe we want to talk a little bit about. Well, here I'll start with. We did have a tournament over the weekend. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to pivot here to the Globe tourney, the Irresistible tournament at Globe that went on this weekend. And speaking of that, though, Ernesto, I will throw this in is that I did in that tournament there was a ton of like the back and forth, a ton of like nobody was doing a 1 turn combo, even though everybody is using the legendary cards. I mean, I am kind of curious on your take too. Just like if you've kind of been able to play test with some of those like legendary cards at their higher end, like how do you feel like the legendaries function in Ward? Like, do you feel like they have that feel of like, ooh, they're fun, but they're not too crazy or too powerful?
That's funny you say that. I actually have my rarest pulls right next to me. So in my box, I only got 3 legendaries. I ordered a box of starter decks, or excuse me, starter packs, which came with 7. And I only pulled 3 legendaries out of that entire box. I pulled Super Hornet.
Hey, that's a good
That'll
legendary though.
focus. I pulled Captain Ward.
Yeah, the classic. We love him on this
And
channel.
then honestly, in my opinion, the best pull, Jerry.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
Jerry's the fan
Woo!
favorite.
Jerry. Yep. No, I'm
Man,
not
all
gonna lie.
creatures.
I
That's kind of
was
crazy. You're the guy
yeah,
who gets
yeah.
you get the legendary creatures. Some people just get legendary magic, and others get the legendary creatures. It goes both ways. No one ever gets like a consistent of both. You know, you got to get one or the
Yep.
other.
Those are the only legendaries I pulled in the entire box. And I will say, right off the bat, I am a little disappointed in the pull rate. But at the same time, I didn't realize Jerry was a legendary. Like I was genuinely surprised when I looked at his rarity and I was like, oh, Jerry's a legendary? I mean, I guess it makes sense.
Hmm.
But
So, are you kind of the
So
opinion that there should be kind of like a guaranteed to kind of, or just more guaranteed to boxes?
um
Sorry, I put you on the spot, but I was just kind of curious.
so see, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this. See, the only benefit I think there is to the big three, there is a secondary market, and therefore you can buy whatever cards you want, or especially for those who are, you know, uh, not do not have as much disposable income, they can make a budget deck and still have a chance at a tournament because they have essentially built a focused budget yet focused deck. And that was my thing back in the day when I played Magic. I always loved turning pocket change into a commander deck and just completely squashing my pod. And with Ward, you can't really do that. You just have to buy because the fact there is really no secondary market yet. You just have to buy a box and just hope for the best, or at least hope for something of high rarity you can trade for what you want. You know.
No, for sure. And I think, well, that's unfortunately that is just kind of the nature of where Ward is at, as you were saying. It's Ward is at this point where, yeah, we don't have that whole market fleshed out. I mean, we're only on Gen 1 and Gen 2, so it's like this is kind of just like, I would say, the beginning of Ward. So a lot of people, you know, Ernesto, they might not agree with you. Like, a lot of people are glad that they got in on the, you know, the ground floor, and kind of, yes, unfortunately, it's kind of like that unwalked, you know, terrain. So where you kind of have to, like you said, be the ones opening the boxes, be the ones dealing with the ups and downs and the highs and lows of all those things. So I totally feel for you there. But yeah, if you are someone who really wants to get like the cost efficiency, it's like, yeah, you probably have to wait a little bit, probably a couple more years for Ward to really get to like those Gen
Yeah.
4, Gen 5, get the
Yeah.
market figured out. So no, but I like I said, I just kind of wanted to get your take on that. Billy, how do you feel with that though? It's like, is that kind of where you're at with just the way the like opening packs are and the rates and stuff? I guess I don't know if we've ever really gotten like our opinions on that.
yeah, no, we really haven't. Yeah, we're in the beginning stages. There are some secondary market options. You know, Sinister D has his own shop, and so he's got quite a few select. He's got a selection of basically everything under legendary, and then quite a few legendary selections. Not everything, but he's got some. And then Curious Crow's also got a good selection too. So, and those are available to buy out, you know, online or whatever. So we do have that. It's not a lot. I get it. And honestly, the supply is just, you know, we're in the beginning stages of the game. So there's not
Mhm.
just piles and piles of all the rare cards out there to have a full-fledged secondary market like you may be used to yet. Um, but I do want to say, you know, there is no published rarity rates, although the ward staff has commented and said about 1 in 3 starters, you should see a legendary. Okay, you can derive whatever you want from a, you know, percentage on that front. But so if you say there's 7 starters in a box, I should see basically 2 legendaries. And if you got 3, you had a good day because I know plenty of people who have opened boxes and got 0. So there's also
Wow.
people who open a box and get
I've
7.
been
So
there.
you know, yeah, I
As
mean,
someone who's bought
it,
like, you know, I'd say probably over 20 boxes. Yeah, you definitely have a box that doesn't have any. And
yeah,
then
so I mean, I look at boxes and like expect 2 legendaries. My last booster box I opened had 2 legendaries, and I was like, yeah, all right, we're doing fine. So if I do better than that, It's a good day. That's how the way I look
Well,
at
and
it.
and the interesting thing, as Ernesto brings it up, it's like, I don't know if you know, but like they do have those 8 slots that potentially can have legendaries, and so like there are plenty of times where packs have 2 legendaries in them, and with the
Multiple,
starter
yeah.
packs, you're always getting a guaranteed foil of rare, epic, legendary, or mythic. All those rarities in there too, so it's like, and a chance to get foil, common, and uncommon, which aren't even allowed to, like, even available in the boosters. So it's like, I don't know. In my opinion, for $20, for like $20-ish for a starter pack, I feel like the value at this point feels like that's a pretty good value. But I can totally see, like you said, if you really just want those key cards that you want to find and have them for cheap, it's like, yeah, unfortunately, War's just not there yet.
Trading's the way to go.
That's just where we are in the game. So I get it, but it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it definitely, like you said, can probably turn some people off, where it's like they just want to dive in, buy a deck that they want to play, and then get into it for sure.
Yeah,
and that's where
buy it.
Oh, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say, buy a budget deck and top their locals. That's something you can definitely do in like Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Pokemon, but sadly, that's just not how Ward works at this point.
No, that's a fair take. But speaking of tournaments, though, I'll get back onto the tournament at Globe. So again, it was a Swiss into a bracket format. I mean, like I said, I kind of helped set up this tournament, so I was really pushing for it. Unfortunately, we didn't get a ward staff there. So Billy, if you want to know, I kind of ended up having to be a little bit of a judge. So Billy's always there. We're combating each other a lot with rulings in the Discord. So hopefully I did well with all the lessons that I've learned from me and Billy's talks over the years of extended card text and different rulings on things. But no, it went really well. I think there was 14 people that showed up there at the tournament, so it was pretty fun. Again, it was just a construct your own deck, so a lot of people brought things. I brought gnomes. I'm really excited. I played a lot of gnomes in our league that we had set up, and so I kind of pivoted the gnomes into, started to try to use them in a deck. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot to put destruction in my deck, and I think that was like a big thing when it came to my matches, is that I just didn't have good removal for certain powerful cards, as maybe I should have. But in the Swiss stage, I went 3-0. I played some pretty strong opponents. I played Dan. I played KC. He's a big member that's been on the podcast quite a bit. He had a pretty fun deck. He was really flexing his speaking of how much money he might have sunk into the game, because he's kind of our ward whale, if you don't know Ernesto. And basically he had 3 Undead King, 3 creators in his deck, just to kind of flex on everybody. But I will say, I don't know how well it was performing, to be honest with you. It didn't feel like it was doing all. It didn't do a whole heck of a lot. I don't think he was very happy with his turnout. But again, I went 3-0. I did play KC, knocked him out. I just kind of, brushed through most of the Swiss, and I was pretty glad with my performance. And then we moved on to the bracket, and I ended up playing against Lenrod, who's in the Discord, and he's kind of the new up-and-coming star of Ward tournaments at the moment. I mean, he took a third at the Average Joe tournament, and now he was able to take first place at this tournament. He was running a Hive Lord deck, so you were just showing off Super Hornet, Ernesto, and I thought that was definitely a card that he utilized in the Hive Lord deck as one of those summon cards. So if you get your hands on a Hive Lord plus a Super Hornet plus a Flame of the Infinite, those limited summons, man, they do a lot of damage. But yeah, he ended up taking it, and so that's kind of just the gist of it. I mean, Mish took second. She also, I think, has been doing very well at a lot of these tournaments. She's starting to move up the rankings too, and so as everyone kind of sees, I think they posted the rankings as of today. So there definitely a lot of people that have shifted up from this tournament. So it was honestly a really good tournament, and I think a lot of people liked it. Like I said, a lot of people after the Swiss, they're like, so like they didn't make it on, and they're just like, so what do we get to do? It's like, well, now you get to watch. You either get to watch the people that are playing at the higher end of the tournament to see who wins, or if you want to, you can check out, and you can head out. And everybody was able to get packs for each of their wins. So overall, like, I think it was just a very successful tournament. And I stayed for basically the whole thing and had a really, like I said, a lot of fun with it. So hopefully in the future, like I said, if you have your own locals and you want to get tournaments started, and you have like a little bit of a scene, and you know the people who own the card store, definitely have them reach out to the ward staff, and potentially you could make like a ranked Ward tournament and have hopefully maybe one of the Ward staff come out and help throw the tournament for you guys, which is, like I said, it's definitely just any way to promote this game I think is great, because as we were just talking, Ward is kind of at this new blooming stage, and so we should definitely be trying to get these tournaments going all over the United States. But yeah, anyway, that was kind of my Ward experience, and I brought the gnomes. I took fourth, by the way. I like I said, I got knocked out, and rightfully so. Like I said, I think gnomes, that they definitely if you talk about kind of like a rogue deck, I think it's like just on the cusp of almost being like a very top tier deck, but it definitely might need a little bit more support. So hopefully Gen 3 has a little bit going for it.
Gnomes is a budget deck, right? It's mostly rares, and your one complaint was I didn't have destruction in it. There's plenty of low rarity.
See, this is the thing. Surprisingly, I only pulled one gnome out of my box. FYI.
Yeah, and sometimes you do. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes you pull none too, and that's the thing. And the thing with gnomes is there's a gnome in Gen 1 and a gnome in Gen 2. So if you are wanting to make these decks, same with Hive Lord decks. Hive Lord's Gen 1, and then both of like Black Jacket and Super Hornet are both Gen 2. So yeah, some of those like mixed decks you kind of have to be opening up both packs. But I do know what you're saying, Ernesto. I've definitely had times where I don't hit any copies of a card, and you're just like, ooh, wow, like yeah, that does feel a little rough.
Be too hard.
Yeah, it stings.
Shouldn't be too hard to trade for it though.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I mean, gnomes maybe not, but honestly, I've had a hard time finding a perfect shark. Yeah,
that's a hard one.
My 3 legendaries.
The nice thing about sharks, though, is
I guess it's a hard sell.
If you have a Great White, though, I mean, I still think Great White is a very strong, like, boss creature that you can stack with the Sharkling, too, even if you don't have Perfect Shark. But I do agree with you. Perfect Shark definitely turns that deck into quite a high level once you get it going.
Yeah. No. Like I said, I pulled 3 Sharklings and 1 Great Shark. Or, excuse me, one Great White. But, yeah, it's just... Honestly, I have to disagree with you. Great White is not. Don't get me wrong. Great White is definitely up there, but Perfect Shark is just it goes from like mid deck to like almost top tier because great Perfect Shark is like the second like biggest hitting card in the game before Creator. The only card that hits exactly for 8 dice rolls plus 8 would be the Old God from Gen 1. So honestly, yeah, just especially the fact you don't need a sacrifice, it just puts it like up there, Some people may see that as a downside because you need to draw into it, but it's better than just sacking 3 and pretty much losing the game halfway with those 3 sacrifices.
That's fair. That's fair with the take, Ernesto, and I agree with you. But if I do have to say, as someone who has slain many shark decks in tournaments and has been the bane of them potentially, winning a tournament yet, you don't know this, Ernesto, but on the show we sometimes do these hot takes, and one of my hot takes is that a shark deck will never win a tournament just because of the fact of the nature of how quickly you can...
Trying to piss off Nelson.
It pisses off everyone who likes sharks, and you know what? I don't care because I will fully commit to it. And so, like, Ernesto, I hope you start playing shark. You get a hold of one of those perfect sharks, and you just see how hard...
Let me give you a little backstory. The reason I gained interest in Shark wasn't because I thought Shark was a good card. The reason I gained interest in Shark was for the Iron Range, because I hate every turtle in this game. They are the bane of my existence. So originally I planned to just run a deck with 3 Iron Ranges and like one of every cannot be is unaffected by magic card creatures, so like Steam Rex, that the Golem, the tree, that was my original plan, but then people were just like, dude, if you want an Iron Range deck, just play Perfect Shark. And I was like, I guess that's a better idea. Yeah.
I'll also throw a candidate out there. There is this thing called the Elkanost and the Harpy, and that is definitely if there was my choice, and Esther, I will agree with you. When I first started, Steam was kind of the way I gravitated to Steam Rex and Steam Golem and all those things. But I do think there are a lot of creatures, like Billy was saying, even with if we can get back to the gnomes that are at that rare level. I mean, we've seen some playtests with Wizard Frog, Maniacs. Like, there are a lot of these creatures that sit at that rare level that, in my opinion, in most decks can pack a punch. But I do agree with you if you're kind of like that synergistic style of the game where you kind of have your creatures that all like synergize well together and you can actually make like a coherent, like, this is the shark deck. I do if that's something you like to gravitate towards, I definitely could see, it's like, pick those archetypes and play with them for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Honestly, I can't tell you how good it felt to turn off Demonic Turtle's ability. That made my day. It it felt, it was like, oh my God, it was like coming home from school and like getting a home cooked meal to just hear play Iron Range, attack for attack for 8 dice rolls plus 8. Okay, I'm taking full damage. It's just beautiful.
You can tell he's not played against the Scarlet, Billy, because if he ever plays a Scarlet,
Oh, yeah.
he won't care about those turtles
No,
too much.
no, that's the thing. I played against Scarlet, and that's what made me want to play Iron Range.
Yeah, there you go. See, it's not even the turtles. The turtles aren't actually the worst thing. It's the green lady. She kind of secretly is like one of the turtles because she is, for some reason, very green. So I'm not really sure.
Ernesto,
Very green.
we had
Like a
we had
Ninja Turtle, man.
right. We had a untapped tournament, and the finals was me versus a guy named Tyler, and we were both playing with Scarlet. So he plays his Scarlet out, and then he keeps equipping things like Creator's Gift, which add a bunch of hit dice roll, and he equipped them to me, gave me the buff. But when you do that, now you have to hit with all 4 dice instead of the 2, and so I just the game turned into, and I didn't have any way to get rid of him, so I was just like, guess I'll just never hit Scarlet. I just never did, and all my creatures died slowly. It was terrible.
This is a good.
No, I would rather get smashed by Steam Rex than have to deal with that. So I'll gladly run Iron Range. Iron Range.
This is a good way. So. Wait, this is a good pivot to our next topic, since Billy was just talking about probably the slowest game in Ward we all had to experience, of 2 Scarlets doing like 10 damage to each other, or not doing any damage to each other, or doing 10 damage to a different creature. It's like, oh my goodness. But no, Ernesto, something that you brought up to me for a topic was just the time of games, and like maybe they're too long, or maybe they're too short, or I was kind of curious if we could all maybe give our opinions and our takes on how we feel about the time of a game for Ward. And and Esther, if you wanted to start off with just your experience of how it is playing Ward and the time of it.
So as I mentioned before, I just started the game. I have played for exactly 7 days since I played my first game. I just got my product in this weekend. I ordered a booster box and I ordered a 2-player playmat. I went down to my LGS with the intention of teaching people this game, and with the end goal being to have a tournament. Not only have a tournament, but also have a tournament that will benefit our cause. I don't know if we talked about it, but I'm the founder of Guardian Gamers, a small nonprofit group that likes to play games while raising funds for their local children's hospital through Extra Life, a nonprofit organization that encourages everyone to play their favorite games while raising funds for their local children's hospital. I actually reached out to the Ward company. They're really interested in getting involved with our cause. So they were kind enough to give us a 40% discount on our first order, with the intention of teaching our community Ward, while the end goal being to have a tournament in our area with an entry fee that will be donated to the hospital.
No, that's
Um,
awesome.
with that in mind, I went. Yeah, no, it's a great cause. I personally love it, and I'm very proud of what we built here. Um, so we made two demo decks uh, that are roughly the same power. Um, with the help of the Discord, of course. I can't deny the Discord is just phenomenal help with like a lot of things, deck building, even just making demo decks. They're always willing to help, so I gotta credit them here. But we went ahead and we made two demo decks, which are roughly the same power. And we went down to our LGS to show people the game. The first person was this kid who got the hang of it really, really quickly. I did offer him a free deck because another thing that I went ahead and did, I made a spare deck with all my duplicate commons and uncommons with the intention of giving that deck to somebody who's interested in playing long term to get a group started, you know? So I offered him the deck after we played. He said he wanted to leave it for someone else, but he did enjoy the game. It was a lot of fun. As much as he did say it dragged on. Um, After that, I played against another dude who we didn't have time for the game because he had to, I think he had like some dilemma. I don't know. But we only played like half of a game. But the input I did get was he didn't really enjoy it because it just felt like Yu-Gi-Oh with dice. However, I personally disagree with that because the game didn't end by turn two. I can compare the game to OG Yu-Gi-Oh though. I can compare it to Goat. It does if anything, it feels like Kaiba and Yugi format, which is like the first two sets of the game, due to how slow that format was. Um, but I also got the input that Irresistible Love should not be in the game, which I believe is already a controversial topic in this community. I believe,
Oh
um,
yeah.
but I after the both of those games, I did show um, my store owner the game. He he did say after holding it, and I quote, he said this, "Wow, holding it in my hand really changed my perspective." Because I assume he wasn't interested with my email, but once he was holding it in his hand, he was like super interested, and he even started asking me how to buy wholesale. So who knows? Maybe with that, I'm gonna finally have a store in my area that supports Word soon, or at least
No, that's
somewhere I can
awesome.
buy product without paying shipping. You know?
Yeah, don't worry.
Because
We'll definitely
oh,
shout it out to Marty too. We had just had him on a couple episodes ago, and he's the marketing side. So yeah, we'll definitely get a hold of him to definitely talk to if the store owner is able to get in the Discord, or if he has another means of contacting Marty. That'd be awesome. Because yeah, spreading it anywhere we can for sure. And one more time, real quick, Nestor, could you shout out just if people want to go help the cause for your charity and where they could go, and just I'll make sure to display it up there on the screen so that everyone can see it.
yeah.
Famous plug.
If you guys are interested in watching our YouTube videos or Twitch streams, feel free to just look up Guardian Gamers on YouTube or Twitch. If you guys want to donate directly to our cause, go down to extralife.org and search up Guardian Gamers, and you'll see our team page where you can donate directly to our local children's hospital, where every single penny donated will be put under unrestricted funds. That way, the hospital can use these funds in any way they find necessary. So that could be life-saving equipment, that could be transportation, clothing, food. It's unrestricted funds, so that way they can use the funds in any way they deem necessary at that time.
No, that's awesome. And like you said, and we're gonna hook up your store owner so he can definitely get some product, and maybe jump back into what you were talking about with that too. Just he seems like he took on with the game kind of the way you were taking on with it. Once you hold it in your hand,
Oh yeah.
right? It's awesome how it
Once you
feels.
hold it, once you hold it in your hand. Oh yeah, dude, bro. When I got my product, here's the thing. I thought to myself, oh man, it'd be really cool if I can save like 2 starter packs for some like a limited game. Once I got that sucker, it didn't last long. I opened all
Yep.
7 packs in like 2 minutes, dude. I could not control myself.
Oh, it's addictive.
So, but I am hoping to hear from my store owner soon. That way we can start supporting Ward, and more importantly, I can finally have a store that actually has some product available. Because I'm over here in the Southwest, and Ward is completely unheard of over here. So I'm like a messiah, bringing a completely unheard of game to uh, the outback.
Hey, we need all the Ward profits we can get, yeah, because there slowly are communities popping up everywhere, and like I said, it's definitely cool to hear when it's just like, oh yeah, it's picking up places, and like you said, you found it in an ad, but that's the thing, it's like eventually, hopefully, we can get all these things to a point where it's like, oh yeah, every region of the United States at least has like this community of people that are kind of supporting Ward and definitely letting it grow from those spots. So hey, you get to be the first, Ernesto. So keep pushing it out there, and I'm sure before you know it, it will sprout out like crazy. Like you said, be a messiah, a Ward messiah. I love it.
Absolutely. Plus, I have long hair, so that helps.
I like it. But to get back to the time of the games, I do want to kind of make sure we maybe just bounce around with this too. I mean, I feels like you got some other people's opinions on what their feel was for the game. I mean, what is exactly like your thought with the game? I mean, how does it feel for you? Is it like
So
too short, too long?
my like, what do you mean? Do you mean like what aspect of the game do you want me to comment on?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, like at least for me, I come from a very competitive side, so like in my head, I want games to last somewhere in the range of like half an hour to maybe like 45, 50 minutes. Because otherwise, in a tournament setting, I think like anything that can like get out of the realm, like let's just say on average games are over an hour. I just think that just is a long time, like you said, for games to have to take. So it's like, in my opinion, if like there was like a perfect time for a Ward game or just in general card games, I don't want, like we were bringing up, turn 1, turn 2 wins so frequently, but I also don't want 40 turns dragging out of just like, okay, I can't hit you, let me pass. It's like there has to be some happy medium. So I guess, yeah, like what are those aspects that, like you said, I think we could maybe touch a couple, because like here's one that definitely for me it bothers me a little bit, is just the whole like shuffling mechanic of trying to find a new hand. As much as me and Billy, we like to talk, I do like the mulligan system that they have in Ward, but I do think that is one of those areas where it kind of does add time that is kind of like dead time in Ward, of like, all right, let me keep shuffling, trying to find a creature, and
Yeah,
sometimes
that's happened a lot.
yeah, and sometimes in Ward we've kind of like a lot of times most people like tell their opponent like, is it okay if I only have one card, if I just like top deck until I find a creature I can play? Because obviously with only one card in your hand, you can't sack, you can't do any of those other things. So it's like, definitely there are ways to like adjust it, but I do think that there are, like you were saying, some areas or aspects that have like a little bit of dead time. That's just one I personally brought up. Is there one that maybe you want to bring up about that maybe could be adjusted a little bit to help with the whole time requirement of the
So
game?
I will straight ahead say absolutely. I've had a ton of those moments where either me or my opponent have like 1 or 2 creatures in deck, so we're just sitting there staring at each other, watching him mulligan, you know?
Mhm.
And it's kind of awkward. I definitely agree. There should be like, because in casual games, yeah, we totally have a thing where like, well, if it's the only creature in your deck, just top deck it, and then, you know. But obviously you can't do that in competitive, so it's I definitely feel like there should be like a little rules change in the competitive tournament just to save time, because you're already gonna be there for like a while. You're gonna be there for a while, so why make it longer than it needs to be?
Mhm.
Um, Another thing that I have gotten, uh, Irresistible Love. I run one Irresistible Love in each demo deck. Um, every time I have either me or my opponent has played it, I get the feedback, this game is this card is probably not gonna how do you say it? I'm trying to think of it. I had one person I was teaching, once I played Irresistible Love, he looked at it and he was like, this card is probably gonna make me not like the game. And I'm like, honestly, that's valid.
No,
That's extremely valid.
to be fair with you, that is literally sometimes the opinion that I have of it too, or I just we've had many talks, like you said, it has been a pretty heated debate in the Ward community, and I think there are a lot of times where I do find where I play with new players, and I think that card alone definitely gets that comment a lot, where it's just like this card is just too much, and it's so unfun because what do I do? What is my reaction to it? Either I like to bring up there are counters to it. I will admit there are counters to it that are pretty budget tier to get a hold of. But either way, I do fully understand why people feel that way because it's like it's just a lot to get over. Where most times you're just like I just have to pass. I don't roll out of it. I just pass. All right.
Yeah, you just pass. And not only that, but you can't play like a destroy spell or anything. You can't play any removal magic because you can't play magic. And it's so funny. I actually have a little bit of a story. I was telling the same person who made that comment, how I actually beat I beat Wardmaster. For the audiences at home that don't know who that is, the original creator of the game. I beat him in a casual game. I will say this was a casual game. We gave each other oopsies take backsies. So it wasn't a competitive. If it was a competitive level, he would have crushed me hands down. But we were playing casual game, and I won the game strictly because of Irresistible Love. Just to give you viewers at home a kind of perspective of how powerful that card is, or how powerful it can be.
Oh yeah, I think in a lot of cases it does kind of decide games. I mean, maybe sorry, Ernesto. I do want to pass it over to Billy. I feel like he hasn't got to talk a little bit. You know, he'll give us his opinion on how long the times of games take, and then yeah, I'm sure he'll love to comment it on Irresistible Love, everybody's favorite topic, if we could.
Everybody's favorite topic.
What do you think, Billy?
Irresistible Love's the only limited card in Gen 2, probably for a good reason. I was a big proponent for it remaining unlimited, strictly because mathematically it should only last half a turn at most. And there are instances where it can go on forever, but like they don't happen that often. So like I made a lot of arguments, but I mean the overall sentiment of the community was we hate it, so it's limited now, which is fine. Um, yeah, I mean, I almost don't play with it, not because I think it's not fun. It's because I personally don't like playing with cards that make me have to rely on rolling like probability to win. I'd rather just outright win, or at least win with increased probability than what the card says. Like, so for example, I'm gonna play with Creator's Gift because it's gonna make me almost guaranteed to hit. I still have to roll the dice. I can still crit miss, but like, you're not missing. You know what I mean? Whereas the Irresistible Love, it's like it's good for half a turn in my opinion because I'm probably gonna they're probably gonna roll out of it, and if they don't, well, it's extra. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're always get out of it. It is what it is. If they decide to ban it, I don't really care. I don't play with it.
Billy, do you want to tackle an aspect of just the time of games and maybe like something that, how you view like the time of a word game or what's your take on that too? Sorry.
Yeah, um, I think it could be seen as a long game when you first start out. I've played it a bunch, obviously, played for over a year now. And all of my tournament games with people who have played for a while are done within 30 minutes tops. I mean, once you get used to like what's going on and you know all the cards and you know what people are playing, you just start you go through the motions. And I understand the shuffling mulligan mechanic. One thing that I do pretty frequently is if I, I'll do my one shuffle and then mulligan. If I don't get it, I say, okay, I'm gonna put these 5 cards aside, draw 5 cards. No creature, draw 5 cards. I got my one creature, play it, shuffle everything back in, draw four. So it would have been the same thing as mulligan until I got the 4+1 or hand +1. You know what I mean? So that speeds up a little bit, but honestly, it's just you get used to the game and the gameplay goes like that. My anecdote for that is that for the first Curious Crow tournament this season, my first round of games, we were doing best 2 of 3s, which I don't recommend, but people do it. It's fine. It's fine if you play the game frequently and you can just roll through games. I played 2 games in 40 minutes with my opponent. We both been playing for a long time. We knew what we were doing, got it done. And then when we were done, ref comes by and says, "Okay, 10 minutes left to finish up your 2 out of 3 games," and everyone was still in round one.
Yeah.
Maybe they hadn't been playing as long. Maybe they had more stally decks. I don't know, but I mean, in my opinion, if you play the game enough and both of you play enough, it'll speed up. And yeah, and some it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but I think the pace is fine. I can understand it taking a while.
Yeah, I agree. And one more aspect I think I like to tackle is the dice. I think, like you said, a lot of times for newer players, I think just adding up dice and doing the dice mechanics, all
Oh
those
yeah,
things.
that's a factor too.
But
Yeah.
what I will say is yes, maybe it adds a little bit of time, but like you said, as you play the game more, you just kind of get used to being like, okay, I know how to add up dice, and the ward staff like to say it too. It's like it helps with your mathematic, everything like just rolling dice, counting numbers, and everything, doing all that stuff. I do think at the higher end, and this is where I want to get back to Ernesto and where you were saying that it does like kind of suck to have like these mechanics in the game of like Irresistible Love, where it's like a rollout ability where it's a probability. Billy, you brought it up too. You don't really like to have your decks with those things because you want to have that like I won with my consistent deck that I know was because of my deck mechanic the way it needed a mechanic, and it wasn't just this luck of winning with Irresistible Love. But I do really think that when it comes to like viewing Ward, I think having these crazy high and lows with rolling dice is something that will separate it from other games. And even if that does add time, I do believe just like having those like highs, as annoying as it is to be locked out for 8 turns by Irresistible Love, not that I've experienced that very often, but it does happen. Somebody gets
I have.
6, 7, 8, yeah, and it's just like you're right. It's pretty unfair. But at the end of the day, I do always want to shout out that there are counters to that card. Even if you think that this game is all just dice rolling and probability and whatever, Jeremy, he's kind of that camp, if anyone's ever talked to Jeremy. But there are cards. There's Kendo Tiger, like me and Billy have talked about. There's Bunny Saurus. There are cards that can deal with these cards that are available. There's Hive Lord, as we brought up, another creature that destroys cards, because Irresistible Love doesn't stop creature effects. And so that is something to remember. So it's just like, yes, is it annoying if every deck has to tech in a Hive Lord? Yes, you could say that. But in every card game, in a competitive scene, when you want to have the highest competitive chance to win, everybody will just tech in that card. You know why? Because they just know.
Everybody will tech in the meta. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, maybe you disagree with that. Maybe, like you said, Ernesto, if you bring that to your locals and your friends are like, "Oh, that card sucks." Yeah, that's at a locals. You can always just say, "Let's not play with it." But in a competitive scene, I'm sorry, that is the way that competitive games work. Is people are gonna do whatever they can to get that edge. So if that's just how the meta shapes, and that's how it's gonna go. And so it's like you were saying, I think at the lower end of Ward, time can kind of, like you were saying, Ernesto, drag on, especially if both players are new to the game. I mean, like you said, you yourself are still pretty new to the game. You're trying to teach people, which also takes a bunch of time, and those people have no understanding of the game either. So like, as Billy was saying, as you play it longer, it gets a little easier. I will say that's kind of like, in my opinion, when I play board games or any game, it's always the case, right? That first day you bust open a new board game with all the friends and no one knows the rules. Yeah, that game doesn't feel as fun. It never is as fun as the third time when everybody already knows the rules, and now you can actually kind of get into the game a little bit more. So it's like, I agree with you. I do think the time can maybe have ways, like you were saying, mulliganing and all that stuff to bring it down. But I also think that, yeah, Ward is still a pretty new game, but once it like kind of gets established and people kind of understand how to function with it, I think it'll definitely sit at a pretty good spot with time. Any last thoughts with that, Ernesto? I want to give you the floor again for that.
No. Honestly, I think you summed it up pretty well. Every competitive card game has meta you need a tech for. The big three, even Flesh and Blood, they have cards in the meta that people need answers for. For example, in Pokemon, people were teching for Mew V. And Magic. Any game with a sideboard, you're teching for competitive cards.
Right.
100%. That's just how it works.
And with that, I think like you said, I think we covered it pretty well. We don't have to dive any more deeper into it for today. I do want to get on to our next topic. You brought up cube format, which I'm very curious to learn about because I myself am not very familiar with what cube is. And so, if Ernesto, if you'd be down, I'm sorry, you're going to have to do your best to kind of lead me through. Treat me like I'm one of those new people you're teaching Ward to, because I'm definitely going to be a little slow to figure this out.
This conversation can go one of two ways. It can either go, I convey it to you perfectly, and you say this is an awesome format that we need to push through, or it can be the most confusing conversation of your life, and you're going to be completely lost. That's how this conversation usually goes when I explain cube.
All right.
So I guess we're going to have to flip the coin.
You start with it, and then you'll get our crazy reactions when we don't know what the hell's going on.
And it's funny because Guardian Gamers was conceived with cube format in mind, because that is one of my favorite formats of all time. Cube format was created in the Magic the Gathering community sometime between 2001 and 2003. Essentially, people wanted to draft without having to pay over $150 each time. So essentially what they did is they took the cards from the set they already had, and they would smash them together and pretty much make a custom draftable set that they could draft forever and ever for free.
Do you want to kind of just, sorry, Ernesto, not to cut you off, I know you're going, can you kind of explain draft? There probably is some people too that aren't familiar with Magic or just the way draft works. Like, can you kind of give a little summary of like how what drafting is in Magic?
That's no problem. Drafting is a limited format in Magic and some other games where you're going to be taking booster packs and a group of friends, or they even have drafts at like LGSs where you can do it with strangers. But essentially, you're going to be taking booster packs of like Magic or other games. Each player is going to be opening a booster pack, picking a card, putting it down, passing the next person, picking a card, putting it down, passing the next person, rinse and repeat until there are no more cards. Then they're going to open a booster pack again and do the same thing over and over again until there are no more booster packs. Mm-hmm. And then build the deck with the cards that they picked. That's called drafting.
Yep. And Ward actually has taken from that a little bit. I know some tournaments we've went to that Ward even has attempted to try that same thing, and it still works very well in the Ward card game too. And so I'm kind of curious, like you said, Ernesto, maybe with that we can all kind of take our opinion of where you're going with Cube. So like you were saying, Cube is kind of this format where you're taking draft, but now you're taking this small sample of cards, right? There's only so many cards in this pool of Cube, and then you're doing a draft with that, is what I'm kind of taking from this.
Oh no!
I think
I lost you guys.
Oh no! You're still coming through. I think you're good. If you just want to.
Hello. Oh, okay, we're back.
Yep, you're
We're
good.
back. Okay. So, essentially, Cube has evolved and grown over these past few years, and has turned into what I believe is one of the best formats of all time because essentially, uh, in these days, Cube has become a format that focuses on balance and fairness and taking that approach while showing your favorite cards or especially cards that aren't um, played a lot in competitive.
And how do you feel that we should combine that into, apply that to Ward then, I guess? What aspect of Cube do you kind of see that goes well with like Ward, if we could maybe, connect the two together?
So, facing this challenge, I already knew this was going to be uncharted waters. So I pretty much just based my approach off of my experience in cube building. Essentially, what I did is first off, I thought, okay, so we want these games to be focused on interesting interactions that we don't see in competitive play. So first thing I did, I went through Gen 1 and Gen 2 and took out all the creatures that had effects and left out all the creatures without it because that way the cube would be more interesting. I took out all the effect creatures with armor level 6 or lower. I put them in a line organized by HP, lowest to highest, and then I picked out which effects I thought were the most interesting or the least seen in competitive play. To show off those interesting aspects. And once I did that, I pruned that pool a little bit more. Then I did the same thing with effect creatures with armor levels between 7 and 12. Um, then I moved on to magics. So essentially, of course, I wanted this cube to be have a variety. So I organized each magic by type: single-use cards, lightning cards, and infinity cards. And again, I did the same system where I systematically picked out cards that I don't see in competitive play or that I think are interesting, and pruned it down to the most interesting cards that I thought would make the funnest games, essentially, but also keep it fair and balanced where there's not like there's not cards that will like dominate the entire cube. That's kind of like the challenge of cube building.
It sounds very structured. I mean, Billy, what's your initial thought as Ernesto's kind of walking us through this? Like, how do you feel about cubed?
It sounds like to me it's just um, you're drafting, but instead of pulling out of boosters, you've got all the cards laid out, and they're pre-picked to be of equal power level and maybe not on the higher end. So you're getting kind of like you get interesting matchups, not necessarily the strongest matchups. It sounds to me a bit like so. Let's talk about competitive Pokemon for a minute. Not the card game. I mean the video game. They have tiers of matches you can play. Like you play like the mythics or the overpowered creatures or overpowered Pokemon or like maybe you play Pokemon Sam like the Little Cup. You can play only baby Pokemon. There's a category called the underused, which would be like they're not the strongest Pokemon, they're not the meta Pokemon, they're kind of like the stuff in the middle, but they're not the weakest either. So like
Our
it
equivalent's like a
cuts out
rare, like
top.
rare creatures, right? And like Ward would be kind of like the equivalent, I guess, in a sense.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that even because there's legendary creatures that don't get played
Yeah, that's
competitive.
fair.
So I mean, it's just the stuff that you don't see a lot,
Right.
and you put it all together, and then you can play with that set. And so it sounds like a set of cards you can build a deck out of, and it should be roughly similar
See,
in power scale,
if you want
somewhere in the
my,
middle.
sorry, Billy, I want to. If you want my opinion, like I guess for me, it's like it sounds like, Ernesto. It's like the cube format is just to be kind of like a fun like pretty not so much serious, but more like you were saying, try to get the most fun value out of like the experience as you
Yeah.
can, and not so much like again, I come from a very competitive scene, so like or like competitive mindset. So in my head, it's like I want it. I do really like to have those like very unique interactions in my games where it's like if you're at the high end of Ward, you understand how some of these interactions work and like can have a very good understanding of it. Um, I I personally I don't know how much I vibe with Cube. I do think it's really fun. Like you said, if you've been playing a lot of Ward, I think Cube is definitely the way to go, and I'm sure that's kind of how it worked in Magic too. If people who play a lot of just the standard way of playing the game, having a way where it's like, ooh, this lets you play a lot of the cards you haven't seen, like, or get a lot of like play test in on these cards that haven't seen like a lot of play in the competitive scene. And like, I think maybe that's like where I see more of the value of Cube. Is that kind of where you land, or do you feel different about that, Ernesto?
No, I feel exactly like that. Cube is really meant for the people who are like veterans that want to see cards that they don't usually see on the competitive side of things, and that's really where Cube is geared towards. That's kind of their demographic. Even in other games like Magic, Pokemon, even Yu-Gi-Oh has Cube, believe it or not, and that's pretty much like kind of where it's geared towards. Not only that, but Cube can also be a way to showcase your favorite cards that you don't get to play with on the competitive side as well. For example, I I had a cube. I had a Pokemon cube that was just all commons and uncommons. Because that's like my favorite format. Do I believe an average Joe cube could be possible? No, the pool is way too small. Even now, I have decided just to aim for a two-person cube for Ward because of how small the pool is. So right now, my Ward cube is 90 cards. That way, each person gets 30 cards plus 15 to mix and match with. Right now, we haven't been able. I haven't been able to test it much because not too many people have the software that I test it with. Um, but I have drafted it once, and we do believe 15 is a little much, and we might cut it down to 80. So that way, each person at the end of the draft, which out of the two people, will have 30 cards plus 10 to mix and match with.
Yeah, like I said, it is a very interesting format. I mean, I would say, people go down in the comments and kind of talk about, if you've ever experienced Cube or just maybe what your thoughts is of Ward with Cube. Because, and Esther, like I said, as someone who is a veteran, I can definitely see the value of that. And, like, I would definitely want to try Cube myself. I do think Ward is still at a pretty new state where, like you said, I mean, even for you, it's like you've only collected, had a box of Ward cards, right? So it's just like it does take probably to have the full collection before it's like Cube is even available for most people. So it's like it is definitely quite a big feat in person. But like you're saying, as like an online source and just as for people who have played a lot, I that's where I do see the value of it. I guess now, even though you like explained it, like you said, I don't think it flew over our heads too much, and I think most people will grasp it. I do want to kind of get just, I call this last segment of just our final thoughts. This is where we all can just kind of talk about something, maybe aspect of Ward that we'd like to talk about. Maybe bring up more about this cube format or just something else another format that you really like about the game. But I'll start, or actually, Billy, let you start. What's your final thought for this episode as we wrap up?
Final thoughts. Cube sounds fun. I've played a similar version of it, kind of a mix between a crack pack and cube. Uh, my wife Erica and I, we opened two starters, two boosters, laid out all the cards on the table, and said, "Okay, build a deck. We're gonna fight the boss." It's a lot of fun. Came down really good time. I'll say I do like the variation that people are finding with Ward, and I always like to try new things. So I like the idea. Like to see what other people come up with or other formats and keep it going. Also, pretty cool that you've been playing for 7 days. Got some cards, went down to your LGS. Like, I gotta teach more people how to play. This is so much fun because I feel the same.
I love that
got
story.
into it, you know.
For sure too.
So, yeah.
Oh,
Glad to have you on, Ernesto.
Yeah. No. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. No, once I had my first game, I knew I was hooked and heavily interested. And was even willing to get Ward involved with my cause just not only to get it out there, but also to help this cause while getting out there, you know? So, because at the end of the day, our intention is to have fun while raising funds for our local children's hospital. So of course I'm more than happy that the company is willing to get involved, not only in the fact that they were kind enough to help us get product out here, but also the fact that once we finally get enough people interested out here that we can make a tournament. The Ward company did confirm that they're more than willing to make it an official Ward tournament.
No.
Awesome.
That's definitely something nice to look forward to. And like you said, with the whole, having your cause and just like letting that be a part of it. I know the Ward too, like there's many times they've reached out. I know that they've gone to like local schools in their areas and they've had kids play there too with the game and stuff. So it's like, I definitely can tell that that's also an avenue that they definitely want to explore more too. So just having you as another outlet to do that, I think it is great with your guys' cause with, the Guardian Gamers. I want you to shout at your plug again. That's just something I think is so cool that, like you said, I think it really meshes well with, the ideals and the views of Ward that they have right now. So if you could just do your plug one more time, if that is, just so we can get people who want to donate or want to support the cause.
Okay, that's no problem. Gladly. If you guys wanna check out our stuff, maybe subscribe. Feel free to go to Guardian Gamers on YouTube. If you guys want to check out our Twitch, where we have charity streams every Friday and Sunday from 8 to 9:30. Feel free to go to our Twitch page, which is guard.ian gamers, and of course, if you'd like to donate to our cause, feel free to go down to extralife.org and look up Guardian Gamers, where you'll find our team page and you'll be able to donate directly to our local children's hospital.
No, awesome. And one more thing, like I said, definitely go on there if you guys want to support that cause. Like I said, I think it's an awesome thing. As a gamer myself, and I'm sure Billy can attest, he's a gamer too. We definitely like using what we do in our everyday life as gamers to help out with things that are are impactful in the world. And so I think that's great. I do really quick have to just transition to the sneak peek for Gen 3. I don't know if you know about this too much, Ernesto. Like you said, you're kind of new to the Ward stuff, but the Ward staff is having a private 150 Club Gen 3 sneak peek at Globe News as well. And so that'll be going on October 12th at 10 a.m. a little early. So if you are coming from out of town or farther away, you might need to like get a hotel or whatever to make it to it. I don't want people getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning trying to drive like 7 hours to get to this thing on time or anything like that. But again, kind of a cool thing that the Ward staff's throwing on, and I just want to make sure I threw out that shout out again. So for anybody who's close, who's almost got their 150 completion, definitely a cool event to get to. But with that, Ernesto, I think that's episode 23 of WWB. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for showing the cause, the Guardian Gamers. Again, guys, go on there if you want to donate. Go on there for the cause. And with that, I think we're gonna call it. Everybody have a great week and a good night.
33.
Episode 33. What did I say?
You said 23.
All right.
A few more than that.
Episode 33. All right, Ernesto. Thanks for having you on, though, brother.
Thank you very much.
All right. See you guys.